stop scrolling. There's a quiet moment when you realize her tone changed, her eyes stopped checking for you, and something essential slipped away. That moment hurts because it feels unfair, but it's also a message you were meant to receive. I'm speaking to you as a woman and as a psychologist, and I need you to hear this without defensiveness. Respect is not reclaimed by pleading, explaining, or performing kindness like a currency. When a woman's respect fades, it's rarely because you failed to do enough, it's because you stopped standing inside yourself. Somewhere along the way, you traded presence for approval, and she felt it before you ever did. The human nervous system is always listening for stability. Women are especially sensitive to consistency between words, boundaries, and behavior. When you say yes while your body screams no, when you overgive hoping to be chosen, you create emotional noise. That noise reads as uncertainty, and uncertainty, over time, dissolves respect faster than anger ever could. You were taught that love is earned by sacrifice, that proving devotion means shrinking. That belief trains you to abandon your center. The problem is not that you care too much, it's that you care without direction. A man who has no gravity pulls no respect into orbit. He becomes reactive, available on demand, apologetic for existing. That posture invites testing, not admiration. Here's the truth most men never hear. Respect returns when you stop negotiating your worth, not through coldness or games, but through clarity. When you choose yourself calmly, consistently, and without announcement, something shifts. Your nervous system settles, your voice slows, your decisions stop wobbling, and the woman watching you feels the ground stabilize beneath her feet. This isn't about dominance, it's about self-trust. When you trust yourself, you stop explaining every choice. You don't chase emotional temperature changes. You allow space without punishing silence. You hold boundaries without speeches. Those behaviors communicate safety and strength at the same time, which is the psychological core of respect. If you're honest, you know the exact moment you abandoned yourself. It might have been a compromise you resented, a joke you swallowed, a need you minimized. Respect eroded there, quietly. The good news is that what erodes quietly can be rebuilt deliberately, but it begins with acting from alignment, not fear. From now on, every choice asks one question: does this come from my values or from my anxiety? That question will feel uncomfortable at first because anxiety has been driving for a long time. When you step back into authorship, some people will resist. That resistance is information, not a verdict. Stay steady. Breathe. Let your actions match your standards. Over time, the emotional climate changes. Respect doesn't rush back, it recognizes consistency, and when it returns, it arrives quietly, rooted in who you finally decided to be, not in who you were afraid to lose. Remember this as you move forward. Self-respect is not loud, not cruel, and not negotiable. It is lived. Here's what most men misunderstand when they try to get her respect back. They focus on her reactions instead of their regulation. Respect is not something she decides in a moment. It's something her nervous system concludes over time. And it's watching how you respond when you don't get what you want. When a man loses respect, he often becomes emotionally loud. He overcommunicates. He explains intentions she never questioned. He asks for reassurance while calling it honesty. From a psychological perspective, that behavior signals internal instability, not weakness of character, but weakness of grounding. And the feminine psyche does not lean toward what feels ungrounded. Let me be very precise here. Emotional availability is not the same as emotional dependence. One creates intimacy, the other creates pressure. Pressure triggers distance. Distance then triggers pursuit. And now you're stuck in a loop where every step forward pushes her 2 steps back. Not because she's cruel, but because her system is protecting itself from imbalance. Respect grows when your emotions move through you, not spill onto her. That means you stop using her as the regulator of your self-worth. You feel disappointment without dramatizing it. You feel desire without clinging to outcome. You feel uncertainty without asking her to resolve it for you. This is not suppression, it's mastery. A regulated man doesn't need to announce boundaries. He enforces them by what he participates in and what he calmly walks away from. He doesn't threaten withdrawal, he simply withdraws when alignment is gone. That predictability creates safety. Safety creates openness. Openness allows admiration to return. Another hard truth: respect does not survive over accommodation. When you adjust yourself too much, she unconsciously registers that your internal compass is weak. She may enjoy the benefits at first, but attraction erodes underneath. Desire needs polarity, and polarity requires two distinct centers, not one person orbiting the other. So, what does acting differently actually look like? It looks like responding instead of reacting, pausing before answering emotionally charged messages, making decisions without checking how they'll be received, saying, "That doesn't work for me," without adding a justification paragraph. Keeping commitments to yourself, even when it costs you approval. Notice how none of this involves manipulation. There are no tactics here, no withdrawal games, no punishment, just alignment. When your internal world is coherent, the external dynamic reorganizes itself. People feel where you stand because you stand somewhere solid. You may fear that if you stop trying, you'll lose her completely. That fear is understandable, but chasing respect never creates it. Only embodying it does. And if respect doesn't return when you become grounded, then what you lost was not her admiration, but your illusion of control. This path requires patience. Her system needs time to recalibrate to the new you. Don't look for immediate feedback. Don't test. Don't ask if she notices. Let consistency speak. Let calm speak. Let absence of drama speak. Over time, she will either lean back in or she won't. Either outcome leaves you stronger than where you started. Respect begins the moment you stop performing and start inhabiting your life fully, not to be chosen, not to be admired, but because your life is yours to lead. There is a moment every man reaches when he realizes that trying harder isn't the answer. That moment is usually quiet, no argument, no breakup, just a sudden awareness that effort without direction feels empty. From a psychological lens, this is where identity either fractures or solidifies. When respect is gone, men often mistake intensity for depth. They show more emotion, more availability, more reassurance. But respect is not built through volume, it's built through congruence. What you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you do need to line up. When they don't, the feminine mind senses dissonance immediately. A woman doesn't lose respect because you care. She loses respect because your care costs you your spine. When you abandon your routines, your mission, your friendships, your standards, you're communicating that your life collapses without her. That places her in a parental role, not a romantic one. And desire cannot survive where caretaking is required. Here's the part most men avoid. Getting respect back often means tolerating her discomfort without rushing to soothe it. When you change, the dynamic destabilizes. She may question you. She may test consistency. She may provoke. These are not conscious games. They're subconscious checks for authenticity. If you fold under pressure, the test repeats. If you stay calm and consistent, the system updates. This is why emotional containment matters. You don't dump your inner process onto her in real time. You process privately, with discipline, with reflection. You speak when you're clear, not when you're charged. That restraint reads as maturity, not distance. It signals that you can hold complexity without collapsing. Respect also returns when you stop rescuing, when you allow her to feel her emotions without fixing them, when you don't jump to resolve every tension. Paradoxically, that space invites connection. You're no longer managing the relationship like a fragile object. You're participating in it like an equal. Let's talk about integrity. Integrity is doing the uncomfortable thing consistently, leaving situations that drain you, speaking honestly even when it risks loss, choosing long-term alignment over short-term relief. Integrity is deeply attractive because it's rare, and rarity commands respect. You may notice that as you shift, her behavior changes in small ways first. She listens more closely. She checks in differently. She mirrors your calm, or she pulls back to see if the change is real. Both are responses to a new emotional signal. Don't interpret either as a verdict. Stay steady. This work is not about winning someone back. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs to win. When that internal shift happens, the external dynamic either rises to meet you or falls away. And either outcome is a return to self-respect, which is the foundation of all other forms. The man she respects is not perfect. He's not emotionally shut down. He's not dominant in a loud way. He is rooted. He knows who he is when no one is watching. He chooses deliberately. He stands still under pressure. And he does not abandon himself to be loved. That is the energy that recalibrates relationships. Not force, not persuasion, presence. At some point, the shift becomes undeniable, not because she says anything dramatic, but because the air between you changes. Conversations slow down. There's less tension in silence. You're no longer trying to read her mood like a forecast. This is what happens when you stop chasing emotional safety and start embodying it. Here's the final truth I want you to sit with. Respect is not something you demand or request. It's something others feel when they sense you are not available for self-betrayal. The moment you stop abandoning yourself to keep peace, the dynamic recalibrates. Even if she never fully articulates it, her body feels it, and bodies don't lie. Men often ask me, what if I do all this and she still doesn't come back? That question reveals where the work still needs to go, because the goal was never to get her back. The goal was to get you back. When your identity is no longer fused to her approval, you move differently. You listen without urgency, you speak without fear, you love without losing yourself. This is where masculine stability becomes unmistakable. You no longer rush to define the relationship. You let reality reveal itself. You don't interpret every distance as danger. You don't interpret every closeness as validation. You remain centered whether she leans in or pulls away. That emotional independence is not coldness. It's confidence rooted in self-knowledge. Ironically, this is often when respect deepens the most, because now you're no longer predictable in the way insecurity is predictable. You're steady, and steadiness is rare. It tells her that you are not here to be managed, rescued, or reassured into existence. You are here by choice. If she returns with warmth, meet it without overcompensation. If she returns with uncertainty, meet it without persuasion. If she doesn't return at all, grieve without collapse. Every response becomes an expression of self-respect, not a strategy. That's the difference between transformation and performance. A man who is anchored doesn't need to prove his value. He doesn't need to threaten absence or promise forever. His presence is enough because it's clean. No hidden contracts, no emotional debt, no silent resentment, just clarity. And here's something deeply important. When you live this way, it doesn't just change one relationship, it changes how everyone responds to you. Friends respect your time. Work respects your boundaries. Women sense your depth before you speak. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you are no longer fragmented. This is not a quick fix. It's a return to alignment. Some days will feel lonely. Some moments will tempt you to revert. Stay the course. The version of you who no longer begs for respect is the version who naturally receives it. Before you go, I want to ask you something personal. Answer honestly in the comments. If respect equals self-trust multiplied by consistency minus fear-driven behavior, what is your current equation coming out to right now? If this spoke to you, like the video. Subscribe for deeper psychological truths you won't hear anywhere else, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it but won't ask.